Okay, I'm going to do a quick recording here, and we're going to look at an image that one of my students sent me. And what she's done here, if you can see the screen, is she's inserted a sky, and here's the original. And she's done a really pretty good job, but there's a few things that are missing. So for instance, you can see here, there's a little bit of a shadow of the flag here in the background from the original picture. And you can also see that we've had a little bit of a problem, some artifacts here around the trees from the original trees. And I mean, boy, don't blame her. It definitely had some issues. And then right here, you'll see there was a handle here inside the truck, and there's some damage to that and a little bit of the steering wheel, but otherwise really did a fantastic job. And so rather than go back and redo the insert of the sky, which like I said, actually pretty doggone good job, I'm thinking, we can go back and we can recreate some of those things pretty easily by importing them from the other picture. And so that's what we want to do. Also, we want to put the antenna back, which should be relatively easy to do as well. So the problem is, of course, that you know, we're putting these pieces on a white background onto now what's a darker blue background. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But let's start with the largest item first. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and select this flagpole. And we want to select all of the flagpole. And the easiest way, I think, is going to be to take either the magic wand tool or the quick selection tool and just kind of see what it chooses, and holding down the shift key, select additional pieces. And it's done a pretty decent job here. It's having some trouble with the white parts of the flag, but it's got the pole really well. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I'm liking what I'm seeing here with the pole. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to try the quick selection tool to kind of add a little in here, and go down and kind of check the bottom. That looks really good. I'm going to go up here to the flag, holding down the shift key. I'm going to, you know, drag over this section and see if we can get this section added. It's not doing a fantastic job because it's having a really hard time. It's having a real hard time seeing the difference between the background and the flag. But we're going to just do a very small brush and some small clicks, small dragging, small clicks to see if it can find the edges of this flag. And it's not doing too bad. Might be kind of tricky here on this piece, right down on the tip of the flag. But it looks like not too bad. That looks like a pretty good selection here. Let's move up to this section, bring all of these pieces in. That's good. That looks really good. Again, holding down the shift key, so I'm adding to my selection. We're getting real close to being done with this one piece. Up here on this section as well. I don't know that this little piece on the outside is critical, but the eagle at the top absolutely is. And so we're going to add the eagle, which is what I assume it is. And we may have to get an even smaller little brush, so to speak, for it to kind of grab onto this section of the eagle. See how it's having just a little bit of a hard time getting all of the little ins and outs of that. And it's important that we get a good selection because we don't want a bunch of extra white around that. Now, technically, when you have the, when you're using not the magic wand, but when you're using the quick selection tool, as long as you have it on plus and minus, you don't have to hold down the shift key. But if you're using the magic wand, you have to hold the shift key to add and the alt key to subtract, all right? So right here, I'm going to have to get in a little bit closer because I need to get this last little piece of the eagle. And notice when I hold down the space bar key and I move, it looks like everything has disappeared, but it hasn't, so no worries. Okay. So this is the kind of the tricky spot, but I went ahead and made the brush considerably smaller. And I'm just kind of clicking in here to make it nice and tight to get around that eagle. And we're just about there. And the key here is to be as precise as possible. kind of a tricky little deal right here, because there really aren't enough pixels for you to save that well, you know, out to the edges. This is looking pretty close though. You just don't want like an extra white edge around the edge of it because then it looks kind of wonky. Okay, I like that. We've got just these tiny little legs here that I'm leaving out, which I don't think are significant. And so now I have a really good selection. So I'm going to do Control C, which is copy, Control V, which is paste, just so I have a copy of it. And then I'm going to drag that over to this other picture. And it looks pretty good, honestly. And now I'm going to put it where it belongs. So it's pretty easy to see exactly where it goes because she still kind of has a little bit of a shadow from the other one. But Control T will transform and we can size it so we can put it where it goes in the picture. So I'm going to slide in here pretty close. It looks like the original picture was cropped, so it's not going to line up exactly. So I'm just going to kind of move it over to the side for just a split second. I'm going to choose my layer as the background, and then I'm going to go ahead and heal the flag that's showing in the background because it's actually going to be kind of in our way. So I'm going to do some healing here. I'm going to remember kind of where that was there, because we do want to see all of the flag. I think that that's significant. All right, so now I'm going to go back to that layer, which is a flag, which is on this top layer. I'm going to go to Control T, transform, and then I'm going to kind of pull it down. And I'm not going to be able to go much higher than this right here and have it show. But I can definitely use the space that we have. Okay, and it looks like it was down right about here. There we go. And so now that's included in the picture and it looks really good. There's just a few little edges that we want to be concerned with. So there's a couple different ways to take care of this, either now while it's selected or prior to us bringing that over. You can scooch in, you can contract on the actual selection to take out that little tiny bit of white around it. Now, I am somewhat of a perfectionist. I like to go in later with a very small eraser and just kind of grab those little edges so that I can make it a little bit smoother and a little bit more realistic. I'm afraid it'll take it down a little bit too much if I contract the selection, although sometimes it ends up looking pretty good. I'm going to go up to about 70%. And then when I go in and do this, I think it's going to be a pretty clean selection. So see how I'm going in here and I'm just kind of scooching around. Now, if you have CC, you have the option of going in and doing a mask and refine the mask and using a tool to do that. And it does a pretty good job, but it's just going to depend on your situation. Like for this particular situation, I went a little too far there, my bad. Let me go back in my history a couple clicks. I really like the way it's selected the pole. I'm going to leave that little bit of an edge on the pole. I am going to pull that edge off of the flag though, so that it blends a little bit better. And I'm just using the mouse for this. A lot of people like to use a tablet with a pen, and I think that does a fantastic job. I'm just not a tablet pen gal, not my thing. Different for each person. And it's not really, edge is not a problem unless it's right where the red is. And so I'm just making sure that any kind of little artifacts towards the edge of the red are taken care of. And you know, it's a little time consuming, but it really has a clean look when you're done. I mean, you want people to be able to zoom in and have no idea that that wasn't there originally. And there really is no way that they can tell. So now I'm going to zoom down to the base because I think otherwise we're there. And I'm just going to make sure my base is lined up. And as you can see, we are not completely lined up. I'm just going to pull this in right here and then boom, that is perfect. So now if I have it exactly where I want it, I can go ahead and layer flatten so that that can't be changed and I can save it. And I'm going to go back and do the exact same thing now for the handle here that we've missed and for that other flag. Now the last question was the trees. So when we look at these trees over here, it's just a little bit obvious that we've inserted a background. And honestly though, fantastic job, really. You've done a really, really good job. But what I would do is I'd either come in with a paintbrush that's the same color as the sky, and that's not too hard to do. We're just going to click on our palette here, click on that color of the blue sky, and then we can kind of come in here and we can start to clone with the clone stamp with that color blue, which is automatically there, or we can actually paint. So I've got the little paintbrush here. That is not on a real soft brush. Let's make sure it's a real soft brush all the way down here. Okay, so I've got my little paintbrush here, and I can literally just paint in these areas. You're going to want to use a pretty small brush, and you may even want to bring the opacity down just a little bit so that you're showing just a little bit of the branch work through that. But if you'll see, as I go over this, it's kind of taking care of the branches that looked a little bit like they didn't belong in that area. And again, a little bit time consuming. You can do it a little or a lot, but it's making a big difference. So now this is just painting. Now, if I wanted instead to kind of clone in, what I could choose to do is clone some of the branches from below up, you know, and so see if I can kind of blend a little bit of, you know, these branches here into this upper area. And that might end up looking a little bit more realistic. It just kind of depends, you know, what you're going for. You want to make sure you get some of those lighter areas out. Now you could also go in with the burn tool, and you can take that burn tool, and as long as you're real gentle and easy, you probably want to put it on a highlight and on a really low exposure. You can kind of try to go in and burn down some of those lighter areas around the branches. But whoop, too much. You got it. It has to be pretty low. Okay, so you can see how that's doing some blending there. You can't go too dark or it's not going to match the sky, right? See, so if that's a little bit too dark, it's not going to match the sky. That can work in conjunction with some of the others. I think your best bet is painting in on those branches to make it look a little bit more realistic. The other thing you can do is you can bring some of the clouds down a little bit to kind of blend in there. It's not that bad though. That's just a matter of going in just painstakingly and doing each little piece. Okay, so that's it. I'm hoping that that was helpful for you, and we can do some more work on some similar things at a later date. Thanks.